Hello everyone, this is the third episode of the channel Soooooooo Productions, and today's episode will be about the NASA SLS program. What exactly is this program? NASA announced quite a while back in April 2014 that they would be doing this program so that they could get to Mars. Like SpaceX, the company is still debating and experimenting with parts of the rockets. Some parts have been fully tested and are pretty much ready for usage. Your ride to Mars will be the SLS rocket. SLS stands for the Space Launch System. Your program will work like this. First, 4 Block 1B cargo rockets will take off. Their cargo will fly and land on Mars at a desired location. This will be next to your landing site. After that, 2 Block 2 cargo rockets will take off and assemble your big space station that'll get you to Mars. About 6 months later, the Block 1 crew rocket will get you onto the space station. There are 6 astronauts, including you, that will go on the spacecraft Orion. You will be on the spacecraft for about 9 months until you get to the planet Mars. Don't worry, it probably won't be uncomfortable. Finally, you will be in orbit around Mars, a few hundred or maybe a few thousand feet above the atmosphere. This is the most dangerous part of the mission. One misstep in this leg of the mission could mean game over for everyone. Your spacecraft starts dropping down into the atmosphere so fast the lander seems to catch fire. Don't worry though, the heat shield underneath keeps the spacecraft and you cool. After some more time, you will have slowed down enough to deploy the parachutes. These will slow you down even more. Once you have slowed down enough, it's time for the landing engines to ignite. For a second, you drop like a rock, but then the engines fire and you will safely land on the surface of Mars. Congratulations! So now we're going to go on to the HAB, basically your Mars home. After landing, you and the rest of the crew will go to the habitat, HAB for short, which will look something like these 2 pictures over here, however probably covered in dust. It will be large, spacious, and able to keep you happy, healthy, and safe during you and your crew's, as well as future crews, stay. The HAB continued. Details of the HAB include a TV, probably, shelves, obviously, a kitchen, etc. It will also have Mars equipment, like things that you might need to study the surface, etc., including 2 large rides outside of the HAB airlock. Now let's move on to these 2 vehicles that were mentioned earlier. There are 2 types of vehicles that will go to Mars on the rockets. Let's talk about the little one first. The Mars ATV will be big enough to fit 1 person around. It will have a good battery lifespan and can go fast over many types of terrain. It will also have lots of lights, cameras, photo takers, little drills, and storage compartments. It also has an external oxygen tank, so you don't need the big one on your back. Mars vehicles continued. The large Mars vehicle is like the ATV, but closed in like an RV. This large rover will have enough space for storage, 2 to 4 people, sort of arms or something similar to that, to pick up samples, giant batteries, and so much more. You don't even need to wear your spacesuit in this rover. So in other words, it's a home basically. It's a moving home. So your return trip will inevitably come. You will, after around 1.5 years, finally start your return trip home. You and the crew get in the Mars Ascent Vehicle, MAV, and it's a short ascent up. Then you reach the orbiter. You left the orbiter earlier when you were coming down to Mars in orbit. You and the crew get inside, and the MAV is either left in orbit for future missions or discarded. Continuing the return trip. We now begin our trip home. You and your teammates aim and reduce or increase your periapsis and apoapsis to eject to Earth using Mars's gravity combined with the engines. The beautiful sight that is Mars passes by as you leave the red planet. The 6 to 8 month trip back, or 6 to 9 month trip back, will be more or less like the trip to Mars. This is where the action begins. Earth's atmosphere is much larger than Mars, and its gravity well is also larger. That means everything on Mars that happened will happen on Earth, but amplified. You and your crewmates turn the ship around and use its engines to slow the ship down and get into orbit. You then get into the other Orion capsule attached to the space station and detach from the station. The station will remain in orbit for other missions. Once you have clearance, you fire the thrusters again to slow you down even more so that your orbit is now a perfect parabola. The orbit now touches Earth. You angle the craft about estimating 45 degrees at an upward angle and wait to enter. When you finally enter, you are going at the breakneck speed of 27,000 miles per hour. The intense friction with the air turns the atmosphere just around the spacecraft into plasma, where the electrons are split away from the protons and neutrons. It looks similar to the same descent trip that you saw when you were going around Mars and landing on it. Now you've basically stopped the re-entry process, and from here it's a much more calming experience. You see the landscape gradually form around you. You slow down, the plasma cools around you and turns into air again. After just a little bit, drogue chutes open. These are not enough to slow the craft down to hit the water at safe speeds, but they do slow it down enough for the main parachutes to finally open without tearing. Once the main parachutes open, the drogue chutes may or may not be discarded, and you are now slow enough to impact the water at a safe speed. Finally, splash! Splashdown has occurred, as you and your crew have touched down and stayed on Mars. Come back. Lastly, a helicopter comes to rescue you and your teammates. And that's it. Congratulations, you completed the trip. You and your teammates braved the danger and became pioneers. People who know about many space probes might understand what it did there, or space exploration. Maybe this entire scenario might happen to you. Maybe you might become some of the first humans on Mars. And even if you don't, you might become one in your own heart. And even then if you don't, hey, at least you learned about this. Thank you for watching this video, and if you want to watch more, stay tuned and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. Again, thank you for watching, and bye-bye.